Hi, I'm Rachel McLeod, and I am a mental health therapist and emotional wellness coach. And I help people do the brain work to get their brain to resolve symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress and resolve those issues for good. Um, what I want to talk about today along those lines is journaling. And me and titles, I forgot the title of this already, but we're going to talk about, I think this is it, the benefits of journaling and why journaling may not be getting you symptom resolution, getting rid of those symptoms of anxiety, depression, and or traumatic stress. But let me start off by saying I love journaling. I am a journaler. Um, Journaling has done so many wonderful things for me, and I encourage people to do it. I just really want you to understand what could be compromising the actual symptom resolution you could be getting and how to bring that in to this your journaling work so that you can not only do your journaling but also get symptom resolution. And so we're going to talk about that, unpack that right here, and so that you can get rid of symptoms, okay, of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. Now, I want to just tell you, I think about this a lot. Um, I ponder because there's an equation to symptom resolution, and I just don't quite understand why journaling doesn't get it, doesn't get symptom resolution because some of the ingredients are here. But I'm gonna dive into that later. But right now, let's go into benefits, okay? And then you'll see what I'm talking about because I'm gonna bring it back. Okay, one of the massive benefits of journaling is that it really can do massive work to resolve alexithymia. And alexithymia is the inability to put thoughts and feelings into words. This is vital for human connection, depth of experience, our conflict resolution, um, being able to express yourself, being able to know yourself. Journaling is wonderful at being able to know yourself because you are expressing yourself in writing on the journal pages. Um, but what's really how it helps resolve alexithymia is that you're actually practicing putting thoughts and feelings into words. And that means you are firing up the front of your brain right there. That's job is to assign words and meaning and understanding to your experiences. And so that part of the brain gets really, really well wired and really strong when you are a journaler. And so if you have never journaled, this is wonderful. Let me come back to alexithymia. Um, I so many people with complex childhood trauma are experiencing alexithymia. Alexithymia can happen when either thoughts and feelings don't get wired into words when you're younger, when your parents are not talking about emotion and emotional experiences. And hey, it looks like you're sad. What's going on? When emotion isn't, or is when words aren't given to emotion in early childhood, you will find alexithymia. You'll find that difficulty in speaking, giving words to their thoughts or feelings, unless there's something that happens that helps people hook this up. But in families where there's complex childhood trauma, mental illness, generational trauma, you're likely to find the inability to put thoughts and feelings into words. And this really sets us up for a disadvantage in life because we can't have these rich conversations with people. We can't express our needs. We can kind of feel them, but we don't have words for them. We don't know if we're happy or sad. I will see this sometimes with clients when they come in and I said, what emotion do you think that is? And they'll say, angry. And they don't know, right? And this is something that needs to be wired in. As a matter of fact, this is the reason I thought I was autistic. I thought that something is wrong with me. What's going on in my head and in my body is not matching the words coming out of my mouth. And as I'm around more and more people with complex childhood trauma, they're saying the same thing. They're wondering the same thing. You go hang out on a board long enough or a Facebook group with complex childhood trauma, and you will find the question, am I autistic? And I'm not saying that people are not. I'm saying that this piece right here can really mirror that, and it's a result of trauma, and it's what happens. It's part of neglect, um, and it's part of trauma. So it's really helpful when this gets resolved, because you really can start empathizing with people. You can, and that's one of the great things about journaling, is that you really can start seeing things from other perspectives. You can start connecting with yourself, which is an automatic turn on for starting to understand other people. I remember journaling for the first time and realizing how frustrated I was. And at the beginning, I didn't have words for my feelings, and so I didn't know I was suffering from alexithymia. But I was journaling, and I was just writing, "I'm so mad." I No, I didn't say I'm so mad. I just feel so and I just wrote down AHHHH exclamation points, period. And I remember feeling like a cave person. Like, I'm a cave woman. I have no words for this. But I kind of just sat there and I wrote that out and I put my exclamation points, and I just kind of sat there for a little bit puzzled. And all of a sudden it was like the light bulbs went off, and I was like, I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated. And not only could I start communicating with other people that I was in fact frustrated, um, I, gosh, I have like three thoughts coming at the same time. I started noticing the signs of frustration in other people, which I had never known before. Do you know how frustrating it is to be showing your friend frustration and she can't pick it up? Right? And then I'm missing social cues, right? And then people are mad at me because I'm missing social cues. And it's just this whirlwind of problems. But really, the moment I started tuning in and having words for my thoughts and feelings, um, gosh, a whole new world opened up for me. I was able to start conflict resolution. I was able to start empathizing. Empathy is not was not a wired in concept in this package. All the empathy that I have, which it is one of my superpowers now, has been built. You Your brain comes with empathy package. All the parts of that, your parents are really have the potential and opportunity to wire that into your system. But if trauma, where there's lots of trauma, there typically that's unresolved, there's typically less empathy. And so if they don't have empathy, they're not going to help you assemble your empathy program, right? So your empathy kit is in there somewhere, but it's not being assembled, and it hasn't been assembled. The good news is that can be assembled at any time. And journaling is a wonderful way to start assembling your empathy. It's a great way to start um, assembling the thoughts and connection between thoughts and feelings. Um, One of the other things that happens with journaling is that you get to organize your thoughts, right? I know it's very simple, but if you have done any time in anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, that's like there's an organization to this. That's like a newsflash. And but it really helps to have this organized. It feels less like spaghetti and fog and scrambling and spiraling and swirling. That is a wonderful side effect of journaling. And the other thing, another piece of this that's really, really important from that you can get from journaling is participating with your thoughts and feelings. And that's huge, because this starts to connect us with our body. This starts to connect us with our subconscious mind, our survival system, our nervous system, our thoughts, our prefrontal cortex. These are big players in our life that are playing life full out with us at all times. And if you don't know the players on your team, you're going to have some challenges, especially if your parents have hooked you up with an amazing nervous system. Probably you're not watching this video because you're like, I'm off doing things. But if your parents have not, um, you don't even know that there are massive players in your world. You may not have been introduced to them, and they are playing with you all the time, and not playing with you in a negative way, because that's not what's happening. They are really part of your life navigation team. They are part of you. You want us to build you a program for having a six-figure business, and you've never had a six-figure business ever, nor has anyone else in your family. Sure, let's build it. That's your team in there. That's your team that can make something out of nothing. That's your team that turns thoughts into relationships and gold and connection. That's your team. And if you aren't having the success in your life that you want, chances are your team is not working well together, right? Journaling is a wonderful way to start the process in that direction. Um, Now, let me tell you some other things. Journaling, I consider this a strategy for your prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex loves this. It's sorting. You've got organizing. You got problem diagnosis. You're looking around at your life and your problems. You're writing about those. Um, you're cataloging emotions that are coming up. You're doing all this, and you're doing this writing and organizing. And that's like the jam of the thinking center. And that's where this whole thing can fall off the rails for symptom elimination and symptom resolution. Okay, so that's a good thing, because we're helping one part of your brain, but we have to really take in the other parts of the brain, because that's how we get symptom resolution. Okay. And here is where I'd like to say that even though I was journaling for years and I was resolving alexithymia and I was learning about my thoughts and feelings and building empathy and doing all these wonderful, phenomenal things, I still had a massive anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. I still had complex childhood trauma, and I was still experiencing mental health crises. I had I journaled like a mad woman from age 19 to 22. It was like a daily obsession. Like, I had so much thoughts and feelings that I had to write. I would just be compelled to write. And I had three more mental health crises after that. Like, life shut down. The last one, the third one, holy cow. Um, So, and that other piece of this is the part that flabbergasts me. You can get all this awesome from journaling and still have a massive disorder. That makes one think. Okay, most of my clients that come to me that are journalers have a disorder. All of them have a disorder of some kind. So that makes me, and it doesn't make me, because as you'll see, you'll understand clearly why it's not resolving symptoms. Okay, and one of the biggest clues is that it is a strategy for the prefrontal cortex. It's a thinking strategy. It's a sorting strategy. And because it's doing that, what's interesting here is that whatever you're journaling about is loaded for massive healing and transformation and problem resolution. But the key component will be, can it make it through your healing pathways? Can it get this stuff from your paper into the prefrontal cortex fully? And what I'm going to tell you is, this is where the problem is, and the answer mostly. Okay, this is where I'm going to get a little dicey, because I don't want to step on like neuroscientists who are journalers, right? I can't speak for anybody who does not have a disorder on this comment, because on this process, because this is the piece. The symptom resolution process has to do with emotion and energy and past events and all this stuff not making it through your healing process, not getting from your nervous system, from your body, into the prefrontal cortex. And most of that comes because a lot of the stuff that needs to go through registers as pain in the body. And once pain is registered, the survival system jumps in and starts trying to get you away from pain, which can be your own emotions. Imagine that your survival system is jumping in when you're starting to feel grief, or you're starting to feel rage or hurt. And because this is pain, your survival system is like, no, it's, and so that stuff's not getting through. Let me tell you this a different way. Okay. As you start journaling, right? You're journaling, you got the stuff. And so because you're doing that, it's like all this emotion that's in the back in your body, in your senses, everything that's coming up, right? It's like you're journaling and you're loading it onto this ramp that's going to go through your healing pathways, and it's going to drop material off in your prefrontal cortex, where your prefrontal cortex will be like, whoo, I've been waiting for this stuff, I can't wait to open it and sort it. Okay, now let's come back here. So you're journaling, which that activity loads things up onto the conveyor belt out, right? But imagine that as it's going through the conveyor belt, it starts registering. The people checking it are saying, hey, there's pain in there. This isn't safe. The survival system says, what? There's pain here, and it starts pushing all this stuff off this conveyor belt. And it says, you can't come through here. You will not use these healing pathways. You will not enter. And that's actually what happens. I'm sure there's a nerdier version of that. But that's what happens. And so even though this stuff is coming up the conveyor belt and it's coming into your awareness, right? And that's what's really mind-boggling here, is that you can see it, you're learning about it, you have words for it, but it's getting knocked off of this before it comes back up. And so you find the next day or the next however long, you're still having symptoms over the same trigger. And that's because your body is sending information about the trigger. It's sending memories, it's sending sensations, it's sending all this communication. It's saying, I have information about that, let me tell you. And the prefrontal cortex is like, yes, tell us. I've been looking for that, send it up to me. And the survival system finds it as pain and throws it off. And the thinking center is like, I was looking for that, now I can't have it. And so, but what happens here, so that is what I would describe as a process, a healing or a problem resolution process that's being interrupted, and that's malfunctioning. It's being interrupted by your survival system, and it's malfunctioning. It's not completing its process. And so because this whole process is, your prefrontal cortex is very and compulsively committed to resolving your problems, it's going to pull it up again a different way. It's going to say, oh, let's write about it again. Let's journal about it. And you go journaling about it. And here it comes. And the survival system knocks it off. And it's like, no. And so just because we're journaling about stuff doesn't mean that the stuff we're journaling about is getting fully through the healing pathways. And what I would say is that a lot of times the emotion, which is the part that will register as pain, the negative emotion, positive emotion does not have this problem. Stuff you're excited about doesn't register as pain. It's just zoop all the way to the prefrontal cortex. There it is, right? But because we're trying to have a whole experience, and because there are multiple sides to every problem, we need this pain stuff through too. And let me tell you, your prefrontal cortex is not scared of the pain. It doesn't even register the pain. That's a different part of the brain. So, but this stuff has to come through. And we know what happens when we have full systems that are only listening to half of the players. It's going to be very lopsided. There's going to be lots of discord. There's going to be lots of conflict. And there's going to be lots of, it's not going to happen. And it's just not good. And we see that out in the systems, in the worlds, but it's the same thing that happens in our inner world. A lot of the outer world is made up of lots of inner worlds. And this happens in the inner world. So of course, it's going to show up in the outer world. And because it's happening in the outer world, of course, it's going to show up in the inner world. Right? So if you can understand that when you're journaling, you're doing some really powerful stuff. But if you've got anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, this healing process can be really backed up, and it can be not. If you have a healing process that needs to come through and gets interrupted, your brain is actually practicing interrupting the healing process, right? That's some stuff. Number two, if you don't ever have the experience, or you have this experience so infrequently that you actually complete a healing function with, let's say, a big painful emotion like rejection. If every time you have this rejection pain and it tries to come through and it gets kicked off, you never get to practice the completion of processing rejection. So that means that I don't know where I was going with that one, but That's a big deal. Let me say that first. But this rejection piece, if you don't get to practice the completion of a process, your brain doesn't get to learn how to do it better and better and better. Because when brains can do something good and complete the process, it's like, ooh, let's do that again. So then it wants to go and do it again. And then if it does it again, it's like, oh, this is a thing. And you keep doing it. Pretty soon it's like, move out of the way. Let me try this. Let me see if I can make this better. And yes, please make the processing of my rejection pain better. Thank you very much. By all means, take it away. And you can stand back and watch that process and support it, letting your brain lead the way and support it as it needs to until pretty soon it doesn't need support or will need support only with new rejection pain it hasn't experienced before, right? And then, but by that time, you're skilled in helping that process. We want your brain to be great at processing all of these emotions. So, but just because you're journaling does not mean you're bringing the whole brain together to do the healing work. You could be journaling and you could be freaking out your survival system, and it could be like, what is she doing with all this pain up here? And it could be up there like, you're going to journal, fine, but I'm not letting any of this emotion through. You keep journaling, but this emotion is not coming through. This is pain. Over here, you, happiness, you come through. Okay, but you guys know. And that's the nature of your survival system. It's not wrong, it's how we're made, but we need to understand that so we can really work with it. Now, a lot of times, this is the piece that mind boggles me. Journaling is okay. No, I got to back up one more time. To get the survival system on board, you need to speak its native language and send it signals that, hey, we're safe. It's okay. Let this happen. And to do that, you use the body to do that because that's what the survival system is listening to. The survival system is listening to your body. And your body is sending up signals of distress. We're not okay. Look at all this rejection pain. That registers in the brain the same way being stabbed in the gut is. Okay. So imagine how your brain is functioning when you're stabbed in the gut. Okay. Every time you're rejected or you're afraid of being rejected, your brain is functioning in the same exact way as being when you're stabbed in the gut, which please don't be stabbed in the gut. But the same thing's going on. You're not going to be doing very great. It's not a time, that's a very survival moment. And that's what you'll be doing is surviving. All your survival systems functions will be running, not your processing ones. Right? So we use mind body interventions for this. And we use things like I recommend using the 4 emotional freedom techniques: thought field therapy, energy medicine, and EMDR are my go-tos. There's some other ones out there that are pretty wonderful as well. I don't specialize in those, and I don't specialize in teaching people those. But I suspect that you could interchange these if you had the right strategies. Okay. However, when you use these interventions, you are influencing the survival system to let healing happen, to let this stuff that's on the conveyor belt to actually come through. And when you do that, it's because this conveyor belt is actually very electrical and happens very, very quickly. About 30 seconds of one of these interventions, a lot of information and electricity has moved through in 30 seconds, as you can imagine. Right? And so when you're done with that, you'll notice your body relaxing because your body was like, I finally got to say my piece, got all my information up there, we're good. You know, your prefrontal cortex is busy. You'll notice new thoughts as it unpacks stuff. It's like, ooh, I've been looking for this. And also you'll notice this stuff being released. It doesn't need some of these things anymore. It's sorting through your experiences to find the gold and to build the gold in and to release the stuff that's not so goldy. Okay. But that's the deal. Those are my interventions, right? But okay, let me add this other piece in. Walking has some of the same effects as EMDR, right? Swimming has the same effects, some of the same effects of the EMDR. There's lots of regular body activities we're doing that has an emotional processing benefit to them, right? And so journaling, you're writing, you're actually using your body to get this stuff out. But you're not getting the same symptom resolution results as you get with tapping and the other. I don't understand that. In my thoughts, maybe it's because you're only staying on one side of your brain. Maybe if you were writing from left to right, fully crossing the front of your brain, perhaps that would increase stuff. But either way, that's an area of nerding out. If you know the answer to that, why it's not doing the same result, let me know. I'm open to the ponderings of that. But what I do know is that when you're using a strategy like journaling and you are loading things up onto the processor, you have the perfect opportunity to use another intervention at the same time that will speak directly to your survival system and bring it on board with symptom resolution, letting all of the emotion through, pain and not pain, through to make it to the front of your brain without shifting it into a survival state and shutting down the healing process. So this is so simple. I'm going to recommend two things. I have a Facebook group, and in the Facebook group, I share a training video on. Okay, let me name the Facebook group. The Facebook group is called "Releasing the Baggage of Anxiety, Depression, and Traumatic Stress," and I have done trainings on tons of interventions in there. But I love for journaling. I love using an alternative use of EMDR. This I teach this in the group. It is You'll find the video, but you can search EMDR, alternative EMDR, and you can watch that video. Um, I found that this is safe for even my most traumatized clients who I would never use EMDR to do their trauma processing with because it would be too dysregulating. Um, But I find that if you use these alternative use of EMDR strategy combined with journaling, so much healing happens. So much stuff gets released. And the other side effect of this, tell me if I'm right, try it out yourself and see how that works. But I used to, starting to use my strategies before I would use tapping with it. EFT was the intervention I first started out with. I would use tapping with journaling. And but before that, before I got tapping, when I was journaling, I used to sit down and write for hours. I was a college student. I had hours, and I would wake up in the morning and just write and write pages and pages and pages. And I would still feel this. Oh, I didn't know that that's somatic distress. It's the body's expression of emotion, and I was trying to get it out my pen. Like I had to do something with this stuff. And so I would just write and write and write pages and pages. Once I started integrating journaling with EFT, I was like writing like a page, maybe a page and a half. A lot of times when I'm writing, I have some big emotions. I'll start journaling. I get halfway through and I'm like, whew, I feel much better about that. And I know exactly what conversations I need to have. Right? And I used to be like, this is crazy. Because I know I used to do this for hours, but I don't need to do that anymore because I'm not using, I'm, I'm, I'm actually directly impacting the part of the brain that stops the emotion from moving through. Does that make sense? So by engaging this part of the brain that says, no, no healing, no moving this negative emotion, you can talk about it, you can write about it all you want, but it's not coming through. You're going to talk about it, you're not going to get it. Okay. So, but instead of using my prefrontal cortex to try to pull all this stuff up this conveyor belt and into the front of my mind, I just go into the survival system and say, hey, you don't need to knock all that stuff off. Why don't we just hang out over here and we're good? It's safe. It's safe to let this stuff happen. We're good. A little mini conversation, and then you can let the survival system go back on duty because it's going back on duty. And then all that emotion got through. So we're saving so much time, and we're actually getting the emotional material into the part of the brain that uses emotional material for growing, for creating new ways of being, for constructing, for rewiring, and for wiring in and hooking up our kits, right? We have all kinds of kits in there. We have our empathy kits that those need to be assembled. We don't just want to talk about them. We actually want to have them built so that they're running, they're firing on all cylinders. Some of us can't tolerate the sensation of being hugged, right? Your hugging kit is not yet assembled. We need to get in there and get it assembled. So that means we need to get the material, which your brain will tell you, your body will tell you all about that, and we need to get it up to the front where the assembly team is. Right. Next thing you know, you've got I can hug people. Who knew? Oh my gosh, that changes relationships. That changes when you can actually hug somebody and you can hug your kids. You can start being affectionate with them now. Your trauma is not standing between you and your kids and hooking up their affection program, their affection kit. That's powerful, right? This you can assemble your connection kit. You can assemble your public speaking kit. Sometimes that stuff gets hit with the kibosh. Sometimes it got assembled and it just gets conked, right? Well, let's pick it up and put it on the conveyor belt, get it through to the assembly team, and get that thing repaired. Get it up and running, right? And we also want to get this problem solving symptom resolution kit. We want to get that up there and get that assembled, right? So there's lots of stuff that's really important here. And so I am absolutely not saying stop journaling. I'm saying journal and add in an intervention that works specifically and directly with the survival system. I possibly could have said that at the beginning of this video. So, but you get the long version. But really, that's really where you will notice transformations in every part of your life. Anything you're journaling about, you will notice not just that you got some venting out, you got some pressure off the top of your brain or maybe out of your chest in my case. And you got some order in your brain, you got all of that, and you got you got connected your thoughts and feelings into words, and you got to participate with your thoughts and feelings. You're learning about all parts of you, and you're bringing your whole brain together to actually move this negative emotion through and complete this whole healing process. Doing that once is transformational. Doing that over and over and over again, we're reprogramming and rewiring ourselves for health and wellness. And so I'm saying journaling is a phenomenal opportunity. Use it to the fullest. Try some interventions with it. I teach in the actually on my email list. I start sending out videos teaching these interventions, emotional freedom techniques, an intervention in thought field therapy, um, an energy medicine routine. I start sending those out right away once you join the list because I want you to try interventions. And I'm adding even more to that. It's on my list of to dos. So I encourage you to join my email list. You can find that on my website at rachelmcleod.com. I've added that into the header of this. Um, and then those videos are, a lot of those videos are available in the Facebook group. So you can go there. You can ask questions in the Facebook group. I answer those. I oftentimes will go live about specific questions the group members ask so that they um, get some thoughts from me on that. You're welcome to do the same. And this is one strategy that you can use to get rid of symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. This is actually not even a strategy I teach in my program that teaches people how to resolve symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. I'm thinking actually I do teach a mini version of this in the sixth part of my program. Anyway, but there are many strategies, and what I found is that it's important to use the right strategy at the right time in someone's healing journey, and that there's specific skills that need to be developed in order to go in and be equipped to resolve the whole disorder layer by layer by layer and build, not only resolve and get rid of symptoms, but build in the health and construct some of those kits that we were talking about. Um, there's a certain process that is required, and that's really what I teach in the 8-week program, or the 8-part program, Inner World Transformation, and that is available on my website in a self-study course, where you get it online and you get busy and get to work and you jump into this process. You start using interventions and strategies, and you start building your skill and going after bigger and bigger layers and function and taking down dysfunction. And I also have an 8-week intensive coaching program where I will walk you personally through each step of the process. And so you can learn more about that on my website as well. All right. So now I'm going to answer any questions. Oh, yay. That are on here. I have a couple, or I have some highs. I'm at least going to say hi. But if you do have a question about this, post it now. I will answer those. And if not, we'll make this a shorter video and I will see you next time. Okay. So, okay. Misty says, hey girl, and hey girl to you, Misty. Robson. Um, okay. And she also says prompts are so super helpful for those times. I don't know which point in this talk um, that she's referring to, but um, she says, I do understand that exact type of frustration. Yes, the type of frustration where you have no words for it. Um, yes. And prompts are great. I mean, all the journaling, there are people dedicated to journaling and teaching people to journal, and it is a wonderful thing. Especially if you find that you have difficulty communicating yourself, if you have difficulty communicating what you want, what you need, what all of this means, that's really wonderful. Let me tell you this. I mean, I don't rely on journaling pretty much at all in my work helping people resolve disorders. And that's because I find that by helping the brain actually move up this negative emotion that's blocked and has been blocked for years or decades, it really does its own work in resolving the alexithymia and boundary challenges. Um, uh, gosh, all these symptoms, right? Panic attacks. This right here is the solution to all disorders, as far as I've seen, or one of the solutions to all disorders of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And it really is about helping the brain get that information that is also registering as pain through, so that it has a whole complete picture of the problems and the symptoms, right? And so when you see symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, or consequences of them, um, if you can get the negative emotion through, the brain will do the rest. It's really phenomenal. It simplifies my process. It's like when I'm working with people, I know exactly what we're doing. We're helping the brain move the negative emotion. That is literally all I do. And then the next thing you know, they say things like light bulbs are going off. I'm having these realizations. I now realize this all the time because the the prefrontal cortex is great at making realizations. It just is not receiving all of the information that it needs. And the symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress let you know that it's stuck right there. Wherever those symptoms are coming from, maybe it's a fear of conflict and you freezing. In there somewhere is your brain cannot get this information of there is danger through the healing pathways. It's just receiving that there's danger and then freeze, survival state. And that survival state blocks the information from coming up. So if we can use this intervention here, you'll find that you'll come out of survival states very quickly, or you won't go into them at all, because the survival system is engaged in a different process. And this emotion will come through and it will get through. And then that part of the brain builds your conflict kit, and it takes out, we don't need to panic over this. We don't need to freeze. And then it writes this whole program, and then your survival system's back there reading the new codes. And then it's like, oh, we're not gonna freak out about this anymore. Okay, this looks like a good code. I'll let it go. So the next thing you know, that conflict is coming, and actually you're calm and you're communicating yourself well, and you're not frozen. So I have found this to be so simple and to work over and over and over again. And so I don't really, because my goal is to get rid of symptoms and build health and wellness, I don't find that I use journaling a lot for that. But I want to say journaling is awesome. It has all these wonderful benefits. There are people who do this and have prompts and journals and awesome things that will help you get to know yourself better, that will help you fire and wire this part of the brain and get it nice and fancy, um, and all the wonderful things that journaling does for us. Um, yeah, and I also really want you to understand why you've been journaling and you still have a disorder, and this is why. So, um, anyways, oh, thank you, Misty. And she says, wow, thank you for sharing all of this in capital letters. Hi, you're welcome. Thank you guys for listening to me. This is always fun to share thoughts and in new ways, and sometimes share thoughts for the first time ever. I don't think I've ever done one on journaling. So um, yeah, so much good stuff. All right, that's it from questions. So I think I'm going to jump off. Wonderful connecting with you all. And if you have any questions or comments about this video, go ahead and post them here. You're welcome to send me a private message or post questions in the Facebook group, Releasing Baggage, the Baggage of Anxiety, Depression, and Traumatic Stress. And on that note, I will see you all around. Happy journaling.